Good morning to all our team members and good afternoon, Praveen. Uh, we really thanks for your time, valuable time, and accepting our proposal and invitation for sharing your knowledge with the team, which is really required. So, Praveen, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just okay.
That's great. You are here. So let me brief about Praveen. It's a coincidence that we share the name, only the spelling is a little different. So that's really interesting one. And I request everybody to keep yourself mute, so there should not be any disturbance while getting these knowledge. Uh, Praveen is having really a vast experience in something this uh, plant protection industry, and he's having 18 plus years of experience, and that too is in different fields. Like he is something handle the product portfolio management, field marketing, crops. He has handled different like rice, sorghum, cotton, and fruits and vegetable. He also worked for a strategic distribution and retail strategy. So far, what he contributed for launching 8 fungicides in Indian market and 3 insecticides. And you will be surprised that he has already worked with most of these well-known established means plant protection companies or agrochemical companies. Like he worked with the Bayer Crop Sciences, he worked with Syngenta, he worked with the UPL, he also worked for Indophil Industries. So he's having a really a vast experience in this agrochemical industry. So with that something my intro for him, I just like to put forward our requirement, because most of us are in the field interacting directly with the grower and facing all challenges like facing challenges always about the queries and identifying and resolving the farmers plant protection queries. So that is our expectation. As we mentioned that we are going to cover the 3 different crops. So over to you, Praveen. You can now just take over and start. Thank you.
Thanks, Praveen. And I think it's a great opportunity for me to interact with the team outside India. Because before this, I have only one chance to interact there when I was dealing with Brazilian market. But that too was on a different aspect. So it's a great. Good morning, all. So I guess so we will not waste time. So I think, Praveen, today we will be covering rice as a major one.
Yeah.
Followed by potato and tomato, because there are certain common things. And I will also share this presentation with you, and maybe some other presentations of hot pepper and others, which you can use subsequently.
Yeah, I'm making you host, so you can share your screen.
Yeah, so I will be keeping my video on video mode off, just to have a better bandwidth. So please bear with me for that.
Yeah.
Great. So what we are doing right now is that I will put it, and please tell me when my screen is visible to you. And
yeah.
Okay.
It's there now. It is in presentation mode.
Yeah. So what we will discuss in this time, we just discuss about what Praveen has told me, that we need to discuss our journal, that how to identify different diseases, especially in insects. So what I will do is that this is just a written. So please follow me. And in between, Praveen, I guess you can unmute somebody if somebody has some ask question. So better will be ask them to put the question in chat, and then you can ask me directly, or you can unmute that participant and he will ask me directly. So just to make it a little more interactive.
Just a moment. So what we'll just follow now, most of the queries we are going to take at the end of the session. However, if anybody feel like that the query need to be addressed there only, so raise your hand, we'll allow you. Okay, that's the protocol we are going to follow. Thank you.
Great. So thanks, Praveen, again. So we will discuss about rice phenology. So I will also go on explaining some of the terms which we use, because now I can understand that some of the terms which maybe you are using in India may be a little different from the your market. So what we understand from is that we understand rice from seed to harvest, and then we'll see that how the different insects and pests attack that crop, little variation can be there, and how to address them. Likewise, we also go further to identify different diseases. And when we are talking about different diseases, and especially our pest, we are not talking only from the symptoms, but we're talking about what should be the right time of management. Here, I will not suggest you the products or the molecules, but I will suggest you the right time of management so that you can follow your own company's protocol, that what time of management should be there. Because there is a very important relations between the right time of management and the actual pest control which you get in the field. We'll talk about potato and tomato, and there are certain common things between the both of the crops, so we'll keep on them. Okay, so just Praveen, you have to give a heads up that the screens are visible. So great. So now coming to rice, very interesting crop. So sometimes the duration may be a little different, because this is the average duration taken from, generally I can say, from Indian market, and the duration is generally throughout the Asia at least similar, but there may be minor changes. So if you see that why I have divided this crop into 4 different buckets, that's the first important thing we have to understand, because otherwise I have put into different, I could have put simple slides. But why 4 important brackets? Because these are the 4 brackets where if you start, it's maybe from a seed-based company, or maybe from a, you can say that maybe a government perspective, this can be different. But from an agrochemical perspective, these are the 4 buckets we need to understand, and then you can put your product into right perspective. Now, first, either you can say sowing, in case of transplanted, nursery, or maybe direct sown crop. This is something we can take as a -20 to -25 days. But apart from that, there are 10 to 15 days where we talk as a crop establishment. So from nursery, 25 days plus 10 to 15.
Praveen, sorry. There is something I think wrong. Your participants are not able to see this screen. Is it?
Okay, but are you able to see, Praveen?
Yeah, that's something like from our side only. So I'll just do that. Yeah, now I think it is visible to all.
We're seeing the screen.
We're seeing it, sir.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so as I was telling that from an agrochemical perspective, so these are the 4 different stages. So please be mindful, if you talk about the technical features, then these are not the 4 different stages. There can be different stages, but from agrochemical perspective, these are the 4 different stages which we should be mindful. So first is, of course,
again, Praveen, again, sorry to disturb, but because you are the host, people are waiting in waiting room.
Okay.
Yeah, good number of people are waiting, so allow all.
Admit all. Okay, sir. Done.
Okay, and there will be something like another 10 minutes. They will be just joining. So just requesting that. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Okay. So again, so these are 4 stages. So first stage is not that important, but generally, if you see that I have mentioned the thrips are also one of the pests. It is not a major pest, but we have observed in some of the Asian countries, especially in Vietnam and others, it is there. So I hope that's why I kept as a red, maybe important pest in your area, or may not be. But apart from that, you will see that from the remaining 45 days, these are very, very important. So these are the dates or the time when actually the pest infestation is very high in the field. So for your information, just keep an eye on 2 different stages: early tillering, active tillering, and maximum tillering. These are the 3 important stages where we have to start actual whatever chemical protection we have to do. And beyond that, if you go, actually your total protection feature will go on decreasing.
Yes, I'm good. Okay.
So these are the stages. So but when actually if I keep admitting, so my screen will go pause. So again, so there will be pause from my side.
Lost you, not MD.
So Srinivasta, I think you have to mute.
Yeah. No, now control is with you. I'll just ask you to mute. Control is
okay. Done.
Yeah, you can mute anybody whom you want. Yeah.
Okay, no issue. So just remember 3 different stages. First is, of course, active tillering. maximum tillering, and panicle initiation. So these are the three stages you have to remember from crop protection feature. Remaining stages are of course important from production, but not from crop protection importance. So these are three: maximum tillering, or we can say active tillering, and panicle initiation. Now, why these stages are important? Then I will go step by step to explain why these things are important. So if you see the total occurrence of disease, sheath blight is a disease which can start from early tillering and up to heading. Just be mindful that if you go through the literature or technical field, you will see that sheath blight people can go extending up to even harvest stage. But sheath blight new infestation will not occur after meiosis or after heading stage. Heading stage, we talk is a booting stage. Booting stage, if to make it little simpler, is the stage when the actually rice panicle starts forming in the rice itself, still not emerged, but only a small tip starts emerging. That is something you call as a booting stage. So sheath blight will not go beyond that stage, even if you are able to see. So what happens in general, some of the conditions, farmer is able to see sheath blight even later stage, but that time there is no new sheath blight infestation. So that first thing you have to be mindful. Now blast, there are different types of blast: leaf blast, seed blast, but the most important are leaf blast and neck blast. It will also start from maximum tillering and it will go up to panicle initiation or heading. Again, I just want you to be very mindful when we talk about neck blast. So neck blast can occur even a few days after, a few days before harvesting also, but that is the stage where you will not be able to control. So if you really want to talk from neck blast from a farmer perspective, give me a second, I need to mute someone. Not able to get from where I am getting the sound.
Yes, so Ali Ismail. Yeah. You just mute yourself, and it is request from everybody, keep your microphone mute because we don't want any disturbance. So this is a basic protocol. Yeah.
No issue. So going ahead. So when I'm talking about neck blast can be observed in farmer field even few days before harvesting or even at the time of harvesting. But for a crop protection company, neck blast, even if you go for neck blast at that stage, that is technically a suicidal for a company, because you will not be able to control neck blast at that stage. So when I have written neck blast, so be mindful. So when your panicle heading takes place, after that you will not be able to control neck blast. So maybe for a farmer, neck blast is at later stage when the panicle is fully emerged. But for you and for me, neck blast is a stage when the panicle has started emerging. So these are the few factors you have to be mindful of. Two important diseases: sheath blight and neck blast. Of course, there are some other diseases we'll keep on discussing. Now coming to stem borer insects. Give me a second more. Somehow I'm not able to see whom I have to mute. I'm just because there are people who I think everyone is muted.
Yeah, Ali is.
Oh, sorry, I muted you. Sorry.
Ali Ismailia is the guy who is just something like keep his microphone on. So Ali, please mute yourself. Yeah.
Okay, great. So going ahead. So now there are few insects which we need to discuss, and the first insect we will discuss is the stem borer.
Praveen,
stem borer is.
Praveen, are you on which slide? We are. I don't know.
Same slide. I'm talking about phenology. Then we'll go gradually one by one.
Then okay.
So why Praveen, I wanted to keep this slide is that people should be very mindful that when we talk about insect, which is the stage important for us.
That's great. That's great. And
so
bit
stem,
people are just asking for a little slow so they can understand. That's the something.
Oh, sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm going as an Indian accent. So really,
yes, that's
right. Well, yeah. So talking about insect, there are few major insects, but stem borer, leaf folder, and brown plant hopper, which is generally sometimes people say BPH. These are the three important insects. Apart from there are sometimes panicle mites also, but these are the three important insects we should be very careful when we are handling. Now, why I said careful? Because if you go in the field, the first symptom of stem borer, you will see probably after maybe 45 days, at the earliest 40 days. That's a scene when you see stem borer. But if you see the actual infestation, it will take place as 20 to 25 days after transplanting. So that means when the farmer will come to you with a complaint, that means 20 days has already passed. So if you look into the life cycle of a stem borer, it is something 15 to 25 days. That means the time when the farmer will complain or you see the stem borer in the field, at least one generation has passed. So simply try to understand one generation. A simple stem borer female can lay 200 eggs. That means now we have to control at least 200 times more insects, more stem borer than what you have to control just 15 days earlier. That's why I kept stem borer a little earlier bracket. You can see stem borer at 40 to 45 days after transplanting, but don't go there. Then actually you will be not doing the service to the farmer, and you will also be doing a great disservice to your products because your products will not work there. Leaf folder, of course, not a major pest. Still, you can manage that. The time of infestation generally starts from 35 to 40 days. Not an issue. You can manage that thing. And even if you are able to manage leaf folder after some 5 to 10% of damage, so still there will be no harm to the crop. But stem borer, if you leave the crop, even a small infestation, that will be huge damage. Very interesting, very devastating. Up to this time, what we have discussed is we have discussed about a very dangerous pest, but now we will discuss about a very devastating pest. And I can assure you, I can tell from my experience, because in whole of the Asia and in some of the countries, even outside Asia, brown plant hopper is one of the major devastating pests. And when I say devastating, it is really means it can destroy even up to 80 to 90% of the crop. So that is very important. So again, what time? So if you see the hopper infestation, under normal circumstances, you will be able to see hopper infestation after 60 to 65 days, but it will start at 40 to 45 days. So that means when you see the infestation, 20 days are already gone. The life cycle again is 20 days, 25 days roughly. So that means if you go for a hopper management at 60 days, so you have to control, as I told you, 100 to 150 times more number of pests. So these are some of, that's why please be careful. Whenever you suggest something for rice, the slide should be in front of you, not in terms of the infestation, but also in terms of when you should actually start controlling your, applying the CP in that. So this was the first slide, and I had taken a little more time on this because I wanted you to be aware that our prime responsibility, not as a company, but as an agriculturist, is also that we need to serve the farmer with proper solution. And when solution comes, then of course you have your own company staff. Praveen is there, maybe others are there who can tell you what to do. But for me, I just wanted to be very careful and mindful of the stage, not when the disease is seen or the pest is seen, but when it starts. So that is the stage when you actually will go. Now let us go into little detail about some of the important pests. I give you a very interesting situation. So this is a slide which I made, maybe a little different in your conditions, but this was made for, I think, South Asia perspective. So just to give you a perspective that how this disease dynamics has changed in South Asia. When I'm saying South Asia, I'm including Asian countries also. So ASEAN, and so means whole of Asia, except for Japan. In 1945, there used to be one major disease which we used to call as a Helminthidium leaf spot, or generally leaf spot. But now in 2015, or we can say after 2015, we have more than 10 major diseases in rice. So our responsibility as an agriculturist, as a professional serving in this industry, is to also know that what has changed. So let us take a very interesting example. When Praveen said that Praveen, I have got 18 years experience. So that means when I would have studied, I was in college. What diseases I would study? Maybe 5, 6, because I started before 2005. That means at the time my academics will be carrying 5 diseases, but now I have to deal with 10, and I don't know. Maybe after 2 years there will be 2 more diseases. So that means you need to keep yourself updated also. That's why I kept this slide as a reminder that something which you may have studied may sometimes can lose relevance. And this is important. I give my example because when I was studying, so we read only 5 diseases. Today there are 10 or maybe more. So that becomes important. Now I will go into some of the important diseases, which, and of course, if I miss something after we finish the rice, before I go into potato and tomato, I will have a pause and then we can have a question answer right there, so that the memories are little new one. Very important disease, sheath blight. Now I will open this whole slide and tell you that why I wanted to keep this slide. So if you see, this start from first number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In my experience, when I have dealt with people, farmer will come to you when you are at number 5 or number 6. That's the stage when farmer will come to you for sheath blight. But is it the right stage? Yes, it is a sheath blight. You can understand there are patches. You can say brown patches are there. It's easily identifiable, easily distinguishable. But do follow my words, and whatever is written in the slide, you can get this slide. So don't worry about the slides. Sheath blight is a very, very technically different disease. So where it first of important is, in case of diseases, you need to understand where the disease starts from. So technically we call it the what type of disease: seed-borne, soil-borne, weed-borne, from where it starts. Sheath blight generally starts from the bunds. So you need to see the rice field, there are bunds, there are grasses. So just next time when you are going into the rice field, go and have a little observation on the bunds. What you will find? You will find the grass there that having a simple, maybe the 6th type of symptom, sheath blight like symptoms. We generally avoid all those things. Why? Because grass is not my concern. But there is the inoculum starts building. When I say inoculum, means the overall disease pressure starts building from that. And when you transplant the rice, when you transplant the rice and you apply water or maybe whatever type, these spores are washed into the field. Now what happens when these spores get washed into the field? They go and like you see picture number 1, they are getting washed in the field, and they will take some time. It is like very interesting. If you say that something coordinating efforts is going on between the spores, they will go and they will settle across all the fields. Just memorize that last time when you went to the field, what you saw, every rice plant, it was covered with some stubble, some maybe anything like dark patches, so small straw. Why? It was covered, but nobody bothered about that. But now you need to see that stubble, that patches, that grass or whatever, those patches contained sheath blight spores. So have a look at a picture number 3. There is a small spot I have got. So it is a spore which is just, it will go and patch there with the stem. Now how this happens? So first of all, sheath blight spore, Rhizotonia, it will go and get attached to a tiller. For 5 to 6 days, it will only be spread on that particular. It will not harm anything. It will show no symptom. You will not find anything. It will be simple greenery, nothing is visible. After 5 to 6 days, it will start spreading from one tiller to another tiller, one tiller to another tiller, and it will take some 15 odd days from that to whole of the hill getting infested. After 15 days, so you took how many 15 days to come up to the plant? Now after 15 days, that means after 30 days after transplanting, the first symptom will start appearing. Even farmer will not bother that, because generally this spot will be near to the water level or sometimes even below the water level, or very minor spot. But that is the right stage when you should go for sheath blight management. After 10 days, it will start spreading vertically towards the top leaf. So my dear friends, till date, there is no chemistry which can control sheath blight after it starts spreading vertically. And what we do generally, I'm not aware about your country, but I can say 100% in India, if not forced upon, 90% of the farmer, they will go for sheath blight management only when they see the infestation coming up to the maybe top level. Just to see the second last picture, they will only apply a sheath blight chemical at that stage, and at that stage you cannot control sheath blight. So sheath blight will not only do a direct loss to the plant, it will do an indirect loss to yield and quality also. Now how? So if the sheath blight is not controlled, so it will lead into chaffy grains. You will see that the grains are not having weight, and ultimately the yield will be lost. So a small now farmer has done application has done at this stage, but he will be not be able to control sheath blight, and the yield will be lost. But if he uses the same chemical I will say that most of the stops, most of the triazoles, they work on this based on your company portfolio. But you have to apply at nowhere maximum tilting stage. That comes where, that's why I tell you that have a more emphasized look on the first slide. So that will come at 25 to 35 days after transplanting. So the right stage for application of a sheath plight chemical is 25 to 35 days after application. Please don't wait up to this last 3 stages, because if you wait up to these stages, then obviously you can control sheath plight. I will not say that you will not be able to control sheath plight. You can control sheath plight, but the yield loss to the farmer will be more. So actually, if you apply at sheath plight this chemical, any chemical, so let's say that you are able to control sheath plight, but the losses will be very high. That's why my request will be that if you are really we are into the field of serving farmers, so go for 25 to 35 days, and then remaining these symptoms will not be appearing. A small question again, just to tell you that how this sheath blight has to be identified. You can just see in picture all brownish patches and patch. I can tell you one more symptom. If you touch these patches, and you will see that it will start sticking. It's just little sticky. Or for that matter, if you go and this whole hill in your hand, whole of your hand will become little sticky. So you can easily identify even the symptoms if are a little less visible from the feel. You can identify that their sheath blight is there. So whatever I have explained, I will try to put into slides so to make it more visible. So how these symptoms will start. Initial symptom, you see that in the first picture, there are little water-soaked lesion. You can say that small maybe water dampness is there. So this is a stage. You should be careful, and if you see that stage, so just go into the field, and interestingly, sheath blight starts from bunds. So you can easily identify the symptoms on the bunds. No need to go inside the field. So just have a go near the bunds where there is a more grass, and you can find the symptom number 1. It's a small, you can say water-soaked lesions, little darkish like. You can easily identify this thing. I hope the picture is clear, and because this is I think one of the remarkable pictures. You can see that you can easily identify this is the sheath blight symptom. And then after 1 week, the symptom will be at the lower sheath. Then on the third 1 to 3 week, the infestation will start, and later on it will hyperbill bulb. So what is for you the best result? It's disease symptom. Even if you're late, don't go beyond number 2 stage, because at this stage, even if you are able to apply, so you are able to safeguard the yield of the farmer. Otherwise, you will be able to control sheath blight, but the yield loss will not be able to control. Just to give a more representation on practical form. So these are the 3 different stages. Sorry, these are the 2 different stages you should be applying your chemicals. And third, of course, again, if you can go, good. But the last, all these stages, please avoid these stages, and it will not be any benefit for you or even to the farmer to apply this chemical at this stage. One more disease we will discuss important is blast. And then we can have some questions on around sheath blight also. Now, blast is considered one of the most, again, where I said BPH, like it's a devastating. It's not a dangerous disease, but devastating. It can cause up to 60 to 70% of loss in India. That's why I mentioned very, because I don't know about here, but again, the losses are almost similar. So there are different types of blasts. You can say seed blast, leaf blast, collar blast, node blast. Out of that, now nowadays seed blast has reduced, because most of the farmers are purchasing seed from registered, I think that's certified companies. So seed blast is reduced. Leaf blast, collar blast, and node blast. Apart from that, there is a neck blast, which is very important. So first of all, let me go to a very important sector, that how you identify these different types of blast. So seed blast, of course, you can't identify because it is generally on a black speck on the seed, which is very difficult to identify. But if you see this picture, if I am able to see, there is a it is a just tapering at both the end, and it's an eye shape. Technically, it's just like our eye looks. It's a like eye shaped spots, and if these spots start merging, then it will become total leaf. Now, why this disease is considered very important? Because it's an airborne disease. So very important was when we were discussing sheath blight, it's a waterborne. So if, for example, you are not, if you're controlling the water and water is not flowing from one field to the another field, your sheath blight will not spread from one field to another field. but blast is an airborne disease. That means it can spread from one field to another field very quickly, and from one plant to another plant very quickly. In case of sheath blight, another typical feature is then after, generally when there is a panicle initiation is happening or complete panicle initiation takes place, farmer will stop because after that the water is not required. As sheath blight is waterborne, so it will start spreading also. Sorry, it will stop spreading. But in case of blast, you will not find that much of safety also, because it is spreads through air. So anything which spreads through air, that I will come to that how to what are the different factors which of course moisture is important, and you know that whenever rice is grown, moisture is there. There is a one typical difference if you want to, because if you want to control blast after it has appeared, again little difficult, but you have to predict and when blast will come. So there is a very simple differences. If you see that there is a difference of maybe 10 degrees Celsius. I hope that the Celsius is the parameter by which you measure the temperature. Otherwise, Praveen can translate into Fahrenheit. So if there is a difference of 10 degrees Celsius between day and night temperature, so that means nights are a little cooler, and the morning it starts a little humidity. I'm talking about morning and nights, not exactly daytime. So if there is a difference of 10 degrees between morning and nights, and if in say layman language, if you see that in nights you need to have maybe you love to have a blanket, and in the daytime you start perspiring. So that's simple as a difference. If there is such a difference, so there is a high chances of blast appearance. Even if you use more of nitrogenous fertilizer, there is a high chance of blast appearance. Neck blast, of course, which is the most important. So sorry, I will first come to the blast appearance. So these are the factors. Some of the factors are sometimes if you have this more number of plants per acre. These are the factors which will influence your blast. But now these factors something which I cannot control. What I can control is that I can control or I can manage is how to identify. First thing is that neck blast can be easily identified by the picture which I have shown in the lab. It is a simple spindle-shaped picture where the in between you can say that's lightish spot, and it is surrounded by a dark brown spot. So please don't get confused with the leaf spot. When you say leaf spot is a Helmholtz spot, it's a simple, we can say that is a simple round spot, and blast is an oval spot. So there is a difference, and this is going to be between two. But the most important for us is a neck blast. Now, neck blast is a blast. If you see that you will not be able to, this total neck, the base of the panicle, it becomes dark and it breaks. So when it will become dark, you will see this maybe near maturity or maybe 10 to 15 days before maturity. But if you apply any chemical at that stage, it will not work. Why? Because the blast has already appeared and killed that neck. So when you need to apply, that is very important. Just to simply remember one formula: 5% of your panicle initiation. That is the time when you should go for blast application of blast chemical. So I guess you may be surprised that when we are talking about, we need to talk about more of the disease identification, but I'm talking more from a chemical control perspective, because if you go for identification, I tell you, you will not be able to control the disease. So somehow we are in the field, we need to manage that. So neck blast is simple. You can see that if you see the panicle, it will be dark to blackish, and if you touch it, there will be no moisture in it. High, and it will break. But that is not the stage for us. That is a stage for maybe for scientists to study the spores and something like. For us, it's a stage when we're going to manage, and that is basically booting stage, or we can say meiosis. That there may be different terms. Meiosis may be booting stage, maybe early panicle initiation. So to control the first application of the chemical, and I will suggest that you should not go for a contact fungicide here. You should go for a system, a translaminal fungicide. You have to apply that at 5% of panicle initiation. So when I say 5%, please do not be confused. For example, there are in 1 acre. So 5% doesn't mean that 5 has come up. 5% means if you take one individual plant, if the is 20 centimeter, if maybe 1 centimeter has come up, if you're just able to see a panicle, you should apply chemical at that stage. So if you apply chemical at that stage, be assured that remaining 15 days, you are able to control blast. And if there is a more of a humidity or more of a moisture, then again you can go for the chemical application maybe after 10-15 days. But the important factor is you have avoided that 15 days, which are very crucial. So these are the two important diseases which I wanted to discuss with you. So there are some of the symptoms. Okay, if you see the first symptom, so this is a leaf blast. You can easily identify there is a dark brownish spot on the outer side, just like our eye. And there is a whitish, it's not basically whitish, but you can easily identify it's a whitish spot in between. In case of node blast, so the plant will be dark brown, and there is no moisture. It will be the node, and if you just try to bend a little bit, the node will break. Same way, collar is a region. Basically, I will say that it's a region which is more important for us, from where this neck will start. I will say the last segment of the rice, which is more important for us. There, the infestation will be starting, and it will be just similar to node blast. It will dark brownish color, and the total dried one. So if you even try to touch one, it will not be water soaked. When I talked about sheath blight, I especially mentioned water soaked. It will dry, very dry, and if you try to touch, it will break down. And collar blast is the blast which ultimately gives to neck blast. So there are 4 different types of blast, and if you include seed blast, these are all caused by Pyracleia oryzae. They're all similar. Even one chemical can work on all of these, but important is timing of application. For leaf blast, no issues. You can apply even before after you are able to see the symptom. No issue about that. For node blast, even maybe 5% damage you can apply, or if you have that much of liberty, or you can apply when you are able to see first symptoms. For collar blast and neck blast, you don't have option. You have to apply at a panicle initiation stage. And I say panicle, I just told you, maybe most of the booting stage are 5% panicle initiation for the chemical. So these are the 2 important diseases. Apart from that, there are certain, so yes, so this is the stage I wanted to show you for, especially when we talk about blast application. So I can, if you're able to see the first picture, this is the right stage for application of a blast chemical. Or maybe if you want to go little late, somehow the farmer is not able to, you are not able to meet the farmer, or sometime the farmer is not able to do the next stage. Just remember this picture. Even if you go beyond that stage, you will not be able to help the farmer. He will not be able to, maybe he can get his personal satisfaction, but he will not be able to control the disease. So these are the important things which you need to be mindful about. So now moving ahead, actually, this is a false smut. I don't know. This is a false smut, very important disease, at least in India. But the first factor is a seed-borne disease. So my dear friends, if false smut comes, so don't jump that you can control this, because it's a seed-borne. So if you're not treated your seed properly, you can't. But yes, there is a catch. Still, we can manage up to, maybe I can say more than 70%. But again, the timing of application is again a booting stage. If you apply chemical at this stage, you will add to the losses, because what happened? If you have to apply chemical, you have to go in the field. So if you go in the field, they will get stick to you and the applicator, and will spread further. So you are making. So at this stage, you should be very clear to the farmer that no, control this disease, better to go for a next. You will not doing, technically you will doing disservice to the applying at this stage. Even for blast, false smut application is a booting stage. Beyond booting stage, you will not be able to control, because this stage, whatever is a stage which is only almost this spore yellow, that means the fungus has already died, it has made the spores and it's gone. Now one more disease, I guess I don't know how much it is there, but yes, it has become one of the major disease, bacterial leaf blight. I will just don't look into the picture. These pictures somehow is not very clear. And I will send to Praveen some clear picture which I have taken. So that the rice leaf, if you take one individual leaf, it will start turning brown from the edges. So if you say the laminar, only the laminar part will become somehow you can say the last picture. So the half of the leaf, one-sided, it will become dark, first yellow, and then it will be dark one, and then the leaf will start curling, and leaf will break. No, what happens again in at least I can say that in fungicides, there is only one fungicide which is recommended by even IRI, ERI, I guess, not ERI, it is a copper, but still copper is not that effective. And whatever antibiotic or bactericides we have got, apart from the biological, I don't know, you have your biological in your portfolio or not. Some of the biological, there are some bactericides which are working, but no chemical actually is effective on this. In this case, only copper is there. I just name it because this is only recommended by ERI also. Copper you can apply, but be very careful how to identify this disease. So this disease you have to identify right from the beginning. I will say something. If you say picture number 2, there are some spots. You see that side of the leaf, it's just turning yellowish and then dark yellowish. But for you to go and identify the field, I will give you very simple. Go and pick up the leaf. You will see a small gum-like spot on some of the leaves, a small gum-like spot, because this is a bacteria. So bacteria will make a ooze. That ooze will be small gum-like, and you can easily see it. It will be a small gum-like structure sticking on the leaves, on these leaf edges. If you see that, so that is 100% sure for bacterial leaf, right? But if there is a patch, so now I will give again, because I'm from CP, so sometime again I will come to CP segment. So if you have to apply a chemical and if it comes in a patches, so what happens, there is a bacterial ooze, and then if there is a air or something like, so that bacterial ooze will fall on other leaf, and that area will become totally that will infested. So how you identify it will be patches. So one patch is here, maybe another patch maybe a few meters away, third patches. So disease will appear in patches and first, and then it will spread to the whole field. So what do you have to do? If you have to apply even copper or any other chemical, whatever biological you must be having in your portfolio, please avoid going to that particular patch. So when a farmer is applying, ask him to go around that patch. Don't go inside that patch, because if he goes inside the patch, again, he will spread these spores. So don't go inside the patch. Ask him, or maybe take a long lens and apply that chemical from the outside at that ring, and then do other things. But don't go inside the patch. If you go inside the patch, there is a problem. So these are some of the important, but I guess then let me cover some of the insects first, a little faster, Praveen. I'm really sorry. I have to go a little faster now. Stem borer, very important. It can.
Praveen, it's really, really interesting. So take your time. Don't be in hurry until unless you are in hurry. Okay, we are comfortable.
Actually, I have one basically team call at 3:15. That's I need to little hurry. Okay. So what I can do, Praveen, I will share these slides with you, and then you can take forward. So at least I will try to cover rice. So that's first important. Now, stem borer is it can cause up to 40 to 60% losses. And I say 40 to 60, please be mindful. It can go beyond that. Now, very important is that when we talk about stem borer, now most of the chemicals when we talk about fungicides, okay, before I go into insecticides and insect control or insects, just a small word for you about fungi, because we discussed disease. Because diseases we control with fungicides. So if you just study a little deeper, very interesting thing is there are herbicides or weedicides, that technically means a chemical which will control weeds. There are insecticides, that technically means a chemical which control insects. But interestingly, there are fungicides. But what we identify disease. We identify symptom. There is no disease side. The technical term is fungicide, but you can't see a fungus. You can see only the disease or the symptoms. So there is no disease side. There is a fungicide, and you can't see a fungus. That means you have to apply a fungicide based on the environment. That's why I told you that temporary initial symptoms. Because once a disease is appearing, that means once the fungus has already spread, there is no chemical to control disease, because there is no disease side. It's only a fungicide, and fungicides is only for fungus. And you will able to kill fungus. That's why I was talking about sheath blight. you will be able to control that rhizotonia. You will be able to control fungus, but you will not be able to control disease. The disease side, there is no term called disease side. Insecticide, of course, you can control. So be mindful. The fungicide has to be applied before the disease appears, or even maybe at time when the disease starts appearing, early stage. But even be mindful, if there is a 1% of symptom which has occurred due to fungus, you will not be able to control that fungus, that symptom will always remain there. So you don't say actually be that sometimes what happens that we can say, yes, we have got an excellent chemical in our portfolio, so we can do anything. No, my dear, if there is a 10% symptom, that will remain as such. Yes, the fungus will get killed, but symptom disease will never get killed. So that's point number, very important for fungicides. Okay, so taking a leap ahead, going to insects. So stem borer I have explained, but again, I will not go into much detail about stem borer, but again, being a CP guy, I will tell you that how to identify and what are the right stage of CP application. CP means chemical protection. So if you are, I'm sorry, sometimes I use the terms which I am familiar with. So what happens that the moth comes, it starts laying egg. So try to correlate a moth as a very intelligent individual. So moth is a literally very intelligent individual. So what happens? So when you transplant a rice, so what happens? The rice, there 5-6 days, the rice will be almost very lazy. It will be it will go into transplanting shock. So 5-6 days when that rice is going to transplanting shock, this moth being very intelligent, it will not come and lay eggs, because this moth wants to be very sure that this rice plant, which I'm going to lay eggs upon, is going to survive. So that's why it will wait for 5-6-7 days. And after 5-6-7 days, when the plant is established, the moth will come and start laying eggs. So that means first 5-6-7 days, the moth will not lay egg. That's point number one. But after the eggs are laid, it will take at least remaining maybe 5 to 7 days, sometime more. So take an average of 5-7 days to hatch. So now start calculating. 7 to 8 days, it will lay egg, plus 7 days, so that is 15 days. So 14 to 15 days, the first larva will be hatched. Now the larva, again, little intelligent, it will start feeding on the leaf for 1 to 2 days, and then will start crawling down. It will start crawling down up to the water level, and then will go and make a small hole inside the tiller and start eating. Now do the calculation again. 7 days, depending on the variety, 7 to 8 days for egg laying, 7 to 8 days for hatching, 2 to 3 days for his walking, crawling. How many days? 16-17 days. Now after 17 days, the first infestation will take place. But very important, the larva is so small, it will make a very small hole. You will not be able to see the hole, and there will the overall plant. If you see the overall girth of the tiller, the total hole may be 5% of that area. So 5% of hole is not going to kill the tiller instantly, but the tiller is already infested. So then after, the larva will go inside, starts eating, becoming bigger, and it will go towards the stem, towards the root. It will not go up. Now why I'm telling you this thing very important is because now if you apply any chemical now, foliar application at this stage, now the larva has cut the connection. The larva has totally cut the connection from roots to the top. So if you apply chemical on the top, the larva is enjoying because larva is going towards the roots, not so you cannot kill the larva. Now what you have to do is either you should be little early and you have to apply any foliar chemical maybe after 15-16 days, so that you can kill the larva which is crawling, which is scraping the leaves, or the larva which is going to hatch, or you have to go for a basal application, because if you go for basal application, only then the larva will be killed. Now the common complaint here will be very interesting, which I have faced, because when I launched this one of my stem borer product, Praveen, this is very interesting. So we used to go and conduct the demonstration, but the farmer used to say, after 10 days, after applying your product, look how many dead heads are there, how many these total my stems are gone. But the actual factor was the day the chemical applied, even before 2 to 3 days before that, the larva has already made a small hole and it has gone into the stem. But because the rice is grown in water and rice is a healthy crop, this infestation not seen. After 7-8 days, when the hole starts becoming bigger and the rice that tiller is not able to get the nutrient from the soil, the dead heart will start appearing, and farmer will say that look, after your chemical application, I have done this. So that now this is very important. Now, if you apply any chemical after that stage, that the tiller which is damaged is gone. Now just do small calculation for yourself. Under normal circumstances, if the rice is grown under very fertile soil, there will be 15 tillers, productive tillers, I guess, roughly. So if there are 2 tillers are damaged, so do your calculation, how much it is? More than 15-20%. If 3 tillers are damaged, more than that. Even you applied chemical at 30 days, your 30% loss is instant. So that's why, again, important. Despite the fact that I'm not saying that you should go for total prophylactic control, you should always be mindful that you have to apply any chemical. If you're applying basal chemical, it should be not go beyond 22 days. And if you're applying any foliar chemical or stem borer, it should be before 20 days. Something like 17 to 20 days you have to apply. And symptoms very easy. So if you go and try to pull, there will the tiller which is damaged is start yellowing. If you try to pull it, it will become very easily. So you can just go in the field and try to pull. That's why it's known sometimes as a dead heart. But the same larva can infest the crop at later stages, maybe 60-70 days. Then you will see the white earhead. So the picture number 2 you can see. So white earhead means it's a term which you use, white ear. So again, but in this case, if the damage occurs at a later stage, maybe 60-70 days, I'm talking about second flush, then you will see white earhead. But if you're able to control first infestation, which is generally at 15 to 20 days, the white earhead infestation will be very less. So this is something you have to be very mindful about stem borer. BPH, I don't know how much it is there, but I will just try to catch some of the BPH because this is a very important pest. So just read the line number 2, because a BPH can lay more than 200 eggs. And so here BPH becomes very important because the ETL, economic threshold level of BPH, is 5 to 7, both adult and nymph combined. After 5 to 7 5 to 7, they will start actually causing economic loss to the farmer. Now, if the rice is grown under good condition, there will be 15 to 20 tillers, 15 productive and 5-6 others. So tell me, my dear friends, finding 5 to 7 BPH in 20 hills, how easy it is. That means half a here, or maybe 1 BPH in 2 to 3 tillers. And I don't know the farmer will be actually that much curious to find out. But still, being we can say scientist in this field, it is our responsibility to find the BPH. So I will give you a simple thumb rule, no scientific rule, simple thumb rule, how to find first BPH. Remember when I talked about sheath blight, I said it spreads from the bunds. But in case of BPH, it will spread from the center. So don't go and look for BPH on the bunds. You have to put on your maybe that mud shoes, I don't know what you call it, the plastic shoes, big one, and go in the field. Just take 5 to 6, 10 steps inside the field and go into center and then start finding out there. Because in 90% of the cases, the middle part of the field will be infested, and in the bunds, it will be very clear. So what happens when farmer goes into the bunds, he will see just only the green leaf, everything is good. But in the center, it is very damaging. I will show you some pictures. Picture number 1, this is the eggs, because don't go and find eggs because it's a very tiny. You will not be able to see it. But look at this population. So this is a population which is generally at 400, but this is a population we should not wait for. 5 to 6 is a field. So, and if you don't do it, so this is a damage picture which was taken from I hope in India's Karnataka, one state. So you will be aware of that. So this will happen. And this happened just after maybe 20 days after first infestation, because these were some recorded field and we wanted to take, we wanted to wait for that how infestation occurs. Within 20 days, this much loss can occur. When we're talking about 60 to 70% in stem borer, you be assured BPH can cause up to 100% loss, because you will not be able to harvest a single panicle if the BPH is there. The point comes how to identify BPH. Look, BPH identification is very easy. It's a bug, and If you want to be very scientific, go and touch that bug. It will how will I say that? It will start rotating on that. It will not walk straight. It will walk on horizontally. Yeah, that's the right word. So this BPH, if you touch that BPH, it will start walking horizontally. And there will be two types of BPH, winged and without wings. So don't worry about those things. These are just male and females. So these are not important. But even if you able to find 1 to 2 BPH, if you're able to see, that is the right stage when you should go for a application. Now another point of caution here, because BPH and sheath blight, sometimes the damage can look very, very similar. So what may happen that farmer will come to you and with the symptoms, maybe for sheath blight, and will say that I have BPH, or vice versa. So we have to see, because it's very difficult to find 10, 15 BPH in a hill, very difficult. And also depends on the timing when the farmer goes for identification. So a simple insect, just like hopper-like insect, if you see in the field, is a hopper-like insect, and the damage is very, very huge, because it can lay up to 300 eggs, and the life cycle can be repeated even within 15 to 17 days. That means 2 weeks wait, your population will multiply 300 times, and just 25 days wait, it will be 300 into 300. How much it becomes? I say 90,000. So 20 days, one BPH, one female BPH can produce 90,000. That's a, but take it at 50 to 60,000 BPH in 20 days. So this is something, that's why you call BPH is the most devastating insect which is there in rice. These are two major insects. I think apart from that, there are leaf folders and others which are not important. What I will do is that I will share this presentation with all these details, and we have, I guess, 15 minutes more, Praveen. So I guess we have completed this. Okay, so small, maybe how it factors are there. More humidity, again, just like you should say blast. So the blast factors like more humidity, more nitrogen, fertilizer, closer spacing. But as a CP professionals, we can't control these things. We can't control humidity. We can't control their nitrogen fertilizer application. We can't control spacing. But what we can control is we can suggest them what is the right stage and how to see it. Just a repetition. I'm just again going to BPH because it's a dangerous insect. So don't watch on the fields. If you want to watch on the bunds, don't watch. Go inside the field. At least 10 meters inside you go from the center, and then start watching. Then you will able to see BPH. Otherwise, the picture which I shown you, just have a look again at this picture, maybe any picture, and just try to imagine. This picture has this is a total damage. But look at this area. Look at this area near the bunds. It's total green. There's no problem. Even look at picture this. So anything beyond this is a total green. So if you go on the bunds and just see the bunds, you will see the total green crop, no BPH, but inside there will be infestation. So these are some of the important things which you have to keep actually observing. Apart from that, of course, I wanted to discuss about potato, but Praveen, then you have to take this part. So because I'm sorry, I have not been able to fulfill my commitment, so I am lagging. So, but there's a time constraint I have got for today.
Not at all an issue, but yeah, it was a really interesting session. So yeah, we only covered a little, but yeah, in well detail. So I'll request Praveen if you can take up some of the questions, so it will be good.
Sure.
Yeah. So maybe you can just stop sharing your screen. So
sure.
Yeah, I'm going to get this presentation. So I'll share that presentation with everybody. Now, all of you, whoever is something from a rice growing area, maybe they can ask their question. Yeah, Anas, go ahead.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Mr. Parveen, this is an excellent presentation. All these diseases, you break them, you make them very easy to identify and how to control. But my question is from bacterial blight of rice, bacterial leaf blight. You said there is no actual chemical to control it because it is affected with this disease that we even lost the yield significantly. So you said the best way is hygiene and seed treatment. What types of chemical can we use for the seed treatment?
Little difficult for me to tell the chemicals because I don't know what sort of chemicals are there available in your country. But I can just give a broad guideline, and Praveen, you can. There are certain chemicals which has got aminoglycolators functioning. There are some aminomodulators also. Like in India, we have got. I don't know, there are bromonols. I don't know whether you have bromonols or bromopols are there or not. Streptocycline, because in India it is banned, that I'm not recommending it. Now, I don't know which is there your country or not. These are some of these. This is a combination of streptocycline and tetracycline. Whichever is available in your country, you can use that for seed treatment also. But it's not, I'm not saying that you cannot even control this thing. There are a few chemicals like copper. So you can use copper with some of the chemicals which I can suggest you. When I told you bromopols are there, then streptos are there, strepto plus tetras are there. Then there are certain like the chemical which has got a RNA modulation, like kasugamycin is there in one in India. I don't know where there is or not. These are some of the chemicals which work on bacteria. These are some of the chemicals which work on bacteria. But now important thing is, don't say that you cannot control. Only thing is that it is little difficult. So how you will manage? So first, whenever you see the first symptom, go for application and avoid the area. I told you, avoid the area, the patch, avoid that area. And even if there is a, for example, if you're using more of irrigation, stop irrigation for some time, maybe 5-6 days. So what will happen if the irrigation is stopped? The plant will actually, there is a process in the plant, it will put more of stress on the, what can say that its own metabolism. So due to which the bacteria will stop. So you can stop irrigation, apply chemical and avoid that area. But this is only you can think do, but really there is no good chemical for bactericides. No, not in at least which I have come across. There are certain biological, but biological is very difficult for me to tell you.
Okay, but sir, there is this chemical copper 1 oxide produced by Jubilee. Can it be used?
Praveen, can you translate that?
Anas, why don't you do one thing? You can just something like a text this chemical name. I'll just get a confirmation from, because these technical names are really difficult. So I'll share with Praveen for getting the feedback, and maybe I'll share that back to you.
But just to answer, Anas, I guess you said something gibberellic acid.
Yes, Jubilee agrochemicals.
No, Jubera agrochemical is a different thing. I think he need to send us picture with that. So I'll forward that, and whatever your comment you can give, I can just something share with him.
Sure.
Yeah. So Abu Bakar, Umar, you have some question. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. It's a good presentation. Thank you all, and we really appreciate, sir. I need a clarification on BPH and rice blast. For the seed blast, okay, for the rice blast and the BPH, we know that a nitrogen fertilizer is very important for vegetative stage and panic initiation. Why is it stated that overusage of nitrogen fertilizer causes BPH or so? Please, what's the reason? Because we know nitrogen fertilizer is very important. That's one. Good. Secondly, for the seed blast, Mr. Praveen made us to know that we cannot go inside the field to apply chemicals because it will cause a spread in the powdered form seed blast. What if we have a machine like like on the air? We have a recent mode of application of chemicals where we have what is it called? This
boom applicators.
Yes, like boom application that can go far without you entering into the field. Please, is it feasible? Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks, Umar. So let me, if I have pronounced something wrong, let me correct it. So the second question, it was not related to blast, it was related to false smut. So I guess if I have pronounced somewhere blast, then please excuse me. When I said that don't go into the field, I said it's a false smut, where I told you that yellowing spots, their spores are there. So that was
Yes.
false mud. Anyhow, coming to first question now. No, I'm not saying that don't use nitrogen fertilizer. I'm saying excess use. So what happens? First thing, Omar, let us be very. We should be convinced that the insect is a very intelligent creature. You know, even if you go by religious texts, people say that before human and after human beings, the only insect will remain. So they are there before us and they will remain before after us also. So insects are very intelligent, both from religious perspective, from scientific perspective. So what happens? BPH female will go and survey the area because it can fly. And you know how much BPH can fly? They came from Japan to India in 3 years. So you can understand. So from India to Nigeria, it will take only 1 year. Not worry.
That's very fast.
From Nigeria to India, it will take one year for them to come. They can fly that much. So going from one field to another is not a difficult task for them. So they will go and they are sucking pest. So they need a turgid, very succulent leaves. And when you will make succulent leaf, more of nitrogen fertilizer, as you said, more of greenery, more of succulent, and more of infestation. So the pest will come and survey the area. If the field is less green, that female will not lay egg. It will go into the area where there's a more greenery, more succulent tillers, and go and start laying eggs there. That's why we say that don't go for excess use of nitrogen fertilizer. Because I have seen, again, I'm not very sure about your country, but in India, farmers tend to use excess of nitrogen fertilizer because they want to see their crop green, like they want to see their lush green crop. But that lush green attracts this BPH. Same goes with that your blast. Because what happens when you apply more of a nitrogen fertilizer? So your vegetative growth will be more. So the more will be vegetative growth, that it will put more stress on the reproductive growth. So that the tiller itself first will come under stress, and then if there is a more of a blast, so it will happen like your proportionate growth in vegetative growth is more and less in reproductive. And then if there is some problem in reproductive, so what will happen? So just think of a situation, Omar. If you have two laborers to save, one is very healthy and one is little weak. One is healthy and you know that one of them will be killed. So whom will you save? Simple question. Intelligent person will always say a strong man, because you know that strong man will help you sometime later also. But the weaker one, which is going to die after 2 years or maybe 1 year, you want, okay, if one of them has to die, let the weaker one die, because the weaker one has to die.
Yes.
Maybe after 10 days, 15 days. So you'll save the stronger one. Same way plant will do. When there's a strong growth, weaker growth, the plant will not put energy into weaker one. The reproductive is weaker, let it die. I will be there. That's why we say that less of nitrogen fertilizer. There should be a balanced one. This happens many times. If you go to even to fruits, fruits. So what will happen? You know, when there is attack, first of all, you will not see this leaf shedding. It will be flower shedding, fruit shedding, then leaf shedding. Why? Because plant has to survive. He has to survive. That's why he wants that to remain. So if you use more of nitrogen fertilizer, there is more greenery and there less of fruits, and they will shed this leaf. Because just try to do one thing: have a small pot in your house, plant some tree, plant maybe some tomato, and then give a little bit stress to that. And you see that what drops first, fruit or leaf. You will say that first fruit, flower, and then this. So this is the way. That's why I said use balanced nitrogen fertilizer. Now coming to question number 2, it was not blast. It was more of a false mud. Because false mud has got spores, and spores are dead spores. So even if you have that boom applicator or applicator by drones also, so at the stage when it occurs, you know that the grains are hard. So technically means there is no supply of any sap from plant to the grains, because grain that hardening has already taken place. And if you look closer, the I don't know what the stem, peduncle is known as, that's the stem along with that grain. It is already hard, and there is no supply of any sap from plant to the grain, because plant has to stop this sap supply. Why? Not say it goes on supplying, the grain will not mature, so it will stop the supplying. So if you apply any chemical, it will not go into the grain. So if you not go into the grain, your total motive will be gone. Now, if you apply a contact chemical, so that will go only on the grain which are there. But what will you do with the chemical, but the fungus is already inside? If you apply contact chemical, it will on the grain, but the fungus is inside. You will not be able to. If you apply systemic chemical, it will not go into the plant. So your total motive is lost. That's why I said don't apply it. Better not to apply. Apply at a panicle initiation or booting stage, or at the most when the panicle is green. Don't wait for the panicle to turn yellow. So that's my request. So Praveen, what you can do is that if there are some more questions, you can mail it to me.
Yeah.
And
One more question we can take from Abu Bakar, and then maybe we can close. Yeah, Abu Bakar, you go ahead asking your question because he's in a hurry.
Okay. Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for the nice presentation. My question is just about the difficulty in identifying most of these diseases. Is there what you can do, like protection is better than cure? So the stages at which you are supposed to be applying the chemicals, that's for the fungicides, before it reaches the stage that we cannot control them, or we will be having difficulty in controlling them. Thank you.
okay, Abu Bakar, can I give you a layman example? If you please excuse me for that.
Okay. So,
Okay, very layman example. And generally in India, in villages, we keep dogs. I hope that you also keep dogs as a pet animal.
It is not that common. The pets are not common.
Okay. Well, not common, but you must have heard it. So no, very typical feature, even maybe in your colonies or in your buildings, there are dogs. So what happens when a dog is tied at house? A dog is at house. So whenever a new person will come, what will dog do? Simple. Just you have to answer a little fast. So what will happen, Abu Bakar, if for example, if you go to a house, there is a dog, and the dog is unknown to you, what will happen?
it will back up.
Very good. So if you go on, if you keep on going, then what will happen?
It will familiarize with me with it.
And if you remain at that house for 1 month, and 1 month with the owner, you are there in the house, what will happen then?
We will become close with the dog, and it will identify me anywhere it exists.
So that dog will identify you, and it will become friendly to you. I guess that's the right word.
Yes.
So now replace the dog with a fungicide and replace yourself with the fungus. So if the fungicide is already applied and you go there, it will bark and it will eat you. But if the fungus has already entered in the system and you apply whatever fungicide, it will be more friendly to help you. So that's a simple convocation, I will say. No fungicide is curative. Whatever is written on the label, forget that. All fungicides are prophylactic. They have to apply before the disease appearance. Otherwise, what will happen? As I told you. You replace yourself fungus, you are there in the house, and apply any fungicide, dog will not happen. It will not bark even. It will go and lick you, and it will help you also.
Okay.
That's I think more raw way of putting, but that's the way. Sometimes I think it is nice to like a correlation, I can say, putting that way.
Thank you.
Yeah, Steve, lots of questions. People are just curious to know more about. You have ignited that something like hunger for more knowledge. So I really appreciate. And honestly speaking, the kind of a presentation and the way you just presented, I also learned something. The prevention is some of these prevention measures. So I really appreciate your time. And yeah, we would have been something like listening your talk for hours and hours without getting bored, because the way you were presenting, it was really good. So thanks from our side. Thanks for taking out from your busy schedule your valuable time. So thank you very much, and we expect your presentation. So at least we can share that among the team. We have around more than 50 agronomists promoting our urea. So we are far behind than what we are in India. So we are still promoting the urea, you can understand. So yeah, but prevention is always better. So if we can just start now, then we can just save a lot of journey which we need to do in India. So with that logic, we just contacted, and you have given good knowledge to us. Thank you very much. And yeah, we'll definitely like to have more session where, if you allow. So we'll just organize that also. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Praveen, and thanks all. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.